sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Am I the only one who thinks this is totally insane? Rob, we're fighting theological injustice here.
They're not using just weights and measures.
He said we have 50 listeners. I think he's being generous.
Read your Bible as interpreted by experts.
Rob, are you as shocked as I am?
It's nonsense. If you've given any money to this, you need to complain. You ask for your money back.
I don't know about you, but I find this annoying. What up and shalom. Welcome to the Rob and Caleb Show. My name is Caleb Haig. With me, as always, the Hoff. What up, Rob? How's it going, brother?
It's going great. That just makes me laugh. The new intro.
You like that, do you?
I think they're being generous. Yeah,
thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone, to the Rob and Caleb Show. What up and shalom to everybody in the chat room. Looks like we got a decent crowd in there today. Always good to see people. What up and shalom to everybody watching on YouTube and anyone listening on demand. We are happy that you are joining us. No matter how you're joining us, we're happy that you're with us. Let's get all the, let's get all the musts out of the way. The Rob and Caleb Show is brought to you by TorahResource.com. Go to Torah Resource and find all sorts of free materials there. You can find free articles, free videos, all sorts of different stuff. And, of course, at our programming desk, Gary Springer, and running all of our chat room and our website is Mark Randall. Thank you both for helping out on the Rob and Caleb Show. My name is Caleb Haig, and Rob Van Hove is on the other side of that camera. How you been, brother?
Going well. Things are going great. We're wrapping up fall quarter at Torah Resource Institute.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
And I've got a lot of students writing papers. I'm excited to read what they're writing about. And, what else is going on? Had to shovel the driveway this morning for the first time.
What?
I woke up like 3 inches of white snow. It sure is pretty. But, that was my exercise this morning, was shoveling snow.
That's impressive. Okay, I'm trying to bring down your gain a little bit. I'm going to bring you up in the radio. Sorry, I'm trying to produce this show all at once. Okay. Give me a check real quick there, Rob.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Right, good. Okay. So we got some fun things planned for today. Now, last week, should we get the email out of the way first? Let's get the email out of the way first, and let's open this up.
Mail time.
The mail's here. Good gracious, that was loud. Okay, so this is the. I don't know if it's just in my headphones or what. Okay, here's the email that we got. This is from one of our friends down in the San Diego, California region. She says, I celebrate Hanukkah, but every year about halfway through, I can't help but wonder, would Yeshua support the decision of the rebellion had he lived then? Now, it should just be quickly noted that our last show last week, show 103, was on Hanukkah. Now, this comment was placed on the YouTube page. By the way, we broke 500 subscribers on YouTube, which isn't a lot to a lot of people. They said I'm hot on the mic. Okay, I'm turning down the mic a little bit. Okay. Sorry. So we broke 500 listeners, which was very cool. Subscribers, I should say. So last week we talked about Hanukkah, and if you missed that show, please feel free to go back and listen to it or watch it anytime you want. Okay, so the question is, here we have Kelly writing in asking about whether or not Yeshua would have supported the rebellion in the Maccabean time, and or be celebrating and or proclaiming it every year. Okay, now this right here, we already know, essentially. I know that the guys over at Outcry Ministries really took offense to the idea that we would say that Yeshua was celebrating Hanukkah. I think it is pretty clear, though. They as we stated in our last show, and we had a sound clip of this. They thought it was just ridiculous that anyone would say that it's a pretty shut and closed case that Yeshua celebrated Hanukkah. However, I think that it's pretty clear from the text that he did. Why would they mention the Feast of Dedication, so on and so forth? It seems as though he's celebrating Hanukkah. He was in the temple.
Yeah.
He went to Jerusalem.
And John uses holidays to tie down Yeshua's teaching, like Shabbat, Pentecost, or Tabernacles. No, I don't think Pentecost is in John, but Tabernacles and Passover, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that he was celebrating Hanukkah. Now, Outcry Ministries and Joseph Dumond can disagree with that, along with anyone else who wants to. However, I think the text is actually quite clear. So, it seems as though Yeshua was celebrating it and proclaiming it from year to year, after it happened. She goes on, it obviously seems like the fight was for a virtuous reason, preserving God's word, religious freedom, etc. I think it was more than just that. Who was it? Antiochus?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Antiochus was basically making the Jewish people bow to images of him. So we're talking about fighting against idolatry. This is a question that, I've thought about many, many times in my life, and especially recently since I've had children. How far would I allow my religious freedom to be encroached upon? If someone came in and said that I had to worship Allah now, if I wanted to keep my life, would I bow to Allah? Would I fight back? Would I let them kill me? And I certainly pray and hope, I believe with my whole heart that I would be happy to die before I would do such a thing. And this is exactly what's going on with the Maccabean revolt. You have people who are being forced on pain of death to bow to images of Antiochus Epiphanes, and they say no, right? So, I mean, I think that this is certainly a good cause.
Yeah, and just for Yeshua to assert the importance of the victory of reclaiming the temple, and of course we know Josephus gives a big account that this is an 8-day celebration of the rededication of the altar. That doesn't mean Yeshua endorses or would have endorsed their claim to kingship. He can acknowledge that they're Kohanim, that the Maccabees were priests, without, because what we see in the Maccabean dynasty is down the line they take upon themselves kingship as well as priesthood, in addition to priesthood. And we know Rome came. It didn't last, 100 years, if that, and then Rome came and put a squash to that.
She goes on, actually, I want to touch on just a little bit more of this, and then we'll get on to other things. But she says, could God have done that without the Maccabees? I mean, he could have. However, I believe in predestination, so I believe that war was predestined. I believe, she goes on, I believe some of the other wars in the Torah were approved because the Father specifically told the Israelite to go in and conquer the lands / people. But what about the events of Hanukkah? Does it line up with all the scriptures Yeshua and the apostles talk about in terms of authority, obedience, turning the other cheek, etc.? Okay, well, this is a good question, but I would say yes, it does line up, and the reason why is because, once again, we're talking about pain of death versus bowing to. They had three options: bow to the false god, which in my mind isn't an option, but still, fight or be killed. It says in the apostolic scriptures to take your sword. So it certainly seems as though, I certainly believe in peace and that we should try to bring peace whenever possible. Gary Springer is the teacher in my in the counseling class I'm taking right now. And one of our required textbooks was The Peacemaker. Excellent book. Really good. But there's different ways to resolve disputes, and one of them, unfortunately, is having to protect yourself because people are going into attack mode. Okay, so I hope that clarifies. I think that the Maccabean revolt certainly was something that Yeshua celebrated, and I think that it was a righteous battle because they were fighting against forced idolatry. So, yeah, I think that that was a good one. Okay, so let's move on. I have a little present for Rob. I told him I had a present for him beforehand, but I didn't tell him what it was. Now, Many people might know that for the past, I don't know how many, I think you started at show 100, so 4 shows now.
Mm-hmm.
Past 3 shows, you've been doing your Gematria reading of. So he takes the show number. Right now we're on show 104. This is our 104th show. Now, disclaimer for everyone out there: Rob and I do not believe in Gematria.
No disclaimer.
Okay.
They either get it or they don't.
Okay, so you either get it or you don't, apparently. So Rob has taken the number of our show and figured out the Gematria for it. Here is your present, and here.
It's Rob's Gematria.
Okay, go.
Today is show number 104. One of our first Gematria words that adds up to 104 is Ben Kalev, son of Caleb.
Yeah. All right.
Also, Nahum, the prophet Nahum.
Okay, so we got names.
And Samson, Shimshon, or Samson's father is Manoach. Those both add up. It's the same letter switched around. Here's one. Eliyahu. So the name of Elijah twice.
Elijah.
So Elijah's 52, so twice. And then here's one. Lo Hevinu. They did not understand. Okay, so those are our.
They did not understand. That's the word of the day. That's the Gematria of the day. They did not understand.
And for those who are privileged to be sitting in the chat room, I will type those out, and you will see those here.
Oh, man. Well, this has concluded our Gematria segment. Do you like that? Did you like that little sound effect I got for you?
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So let's move on. Again, Rob and I, for those who might not know, in November we were so blessed to go to the Evangelical Theological Society annual meeting, as well as the Society of Biblical Literature annual meeting. Now, for those who are not aware and have never heard this show before, the Society of Biblical Literature is really the worldwide society for biblical scholarship. No matter if you're a believer or a non-believer or whatnot, if you have any kind of business in the Bible, and that might be publication of the Bible, that might be publication of commentaries or books. Bart Ehrman, I took a picture with Bart Ehrman. If you don't know who Bart Ehrman is, he is a atheist who is a dynamite Greek scholar and has made a business of basically trying to disprove the Bible from the Bible and from historical documents. So I took a picture with him and tweeted out something to the effect of, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So I bring this up only to say that it's not just a bunch of Christians walking around patting each other on the back. No, you have Muslims there. You have you have Orthodox Jews there. You have Christians of all sorts of different denominations and monks and everything. Okay, and then basically all of the major theological publishers are there as well. So you can talk to people. You might run into people who actually were on the boards, the translation boards of pick your favorite translation: NASB, ESV, the Net Bible, NIV, so on and so forth. Okay, so we just had a wonderful time. Every year there's 11 to 12,000 people who show up for the Society of Biblical Literature. They come from all over the world, and actually in years past they've had maps in the main hall, and what you can do is you take a pin and you put the pin in where you're from, and so it's really cool because you can see these red pins just strewn all over this map of the world from where people have come to be able to be at the Society of Biblical Literature. And it should also be said that the 12,000 is not actually that are usually there is actually not an accurate representation of how many are members of the SBL. And the reason being that there's many people who can't come every single year. So there's a portion of people who are not able to make it to the SBL, even though they're members. Okay, so why do I bring that up? I bring up the SBL, the Society of Biblical Literature, because if you're in anything Bible, if you're doing any kind of biblical work, jump in here anytime if you want to, by the way, Rob. If you're doing any kind of biblical work, if you're doing any kind of biblical scholarship, if you want to be vetted, if you want to basically test your ideas, or if you want to, if you've written a paper, you have a theory, or if you have a new translation or something like that, what do? You go to the SBL, you present a paper, and the top scholars in their field will sit in and listen to said paper, and you will be asked questions. You will have to essentially defend your position, and no matter what the topic is, because there's going to be people who agree with you possibly and disagree with you. Okay, and
it's a forum for rigorous peer review.
That's exactly right.
Like if you I mean, that's probably the most concise way I could say it, because you're going to be in a room full of people who've done their homework,
and not just their homework. They've gone through school, and they are now working in specific fields. Keep going.
Yeah, and so they're very familiar with the terrain,
That's right.
of the text, of the history, chronology. And so even if they come from different faith commitments, they're all sitting at the same table that has the same texts on it, the same Dead Sea Scrolls or whatever, if you imagine all the things that they look at. It could be archaeological evidence, it could be texts. With the ETS, it's theological, maybe doctrines. But people come well prepared, both as presenters and those who have their kind of ear to the ground. It's just, how we know which groups we want to go see or which sessions we want to see is because we've been reading specific authors, or we've read their books or their articles, and we're interested in, kind of where their thinking has moved, and also to be able to ask them questions, and so it's definitely it could be like a fire hose for your first time, because you're learning to kind of dive in and start to trace the different arguments, the hot topics. What are people talking about? What are they saying about it? And that takes a while, to learn to deal with that level of scholarly rigor. Doesn't mean everybody, of course, not everybody agrees. That's not the point. But the point is the research, to focus and promote biblical research, to take what is known in biblical research and try to sharpen it, to try to increase our knowledge and understanding of the world of the Bible and the text. And so you've got different groups with different people with different types of ideological backgrounds, all wrestling over the same material.
And what happens is we go to these meetings, and it's a little intimidating and a little daunting to be in the room with some of these just juggernaut scholars. These guys know the text backwards and forwards, some of them by heart. It's an amazing time. And what happens is we get all pumped up. It's kind of like a reset button for us, and kind of gets us back on track, puts our mind back where it needs to be into our specific fields and all these kind of things. Okay, so I know we've talked about the SBL, but I wanted to set that up because one of the things that we've ran into this week is, and I really don't want to come across like I'm trying to bash any specific group or anything like that. But we've been looking at different teachers and different groups within the Messianic Hebrew roots realm to try and been looking at some of the new things that are coming out. And what I've realized is that it's a totally different ballgame between what is considered scholarship in the Christian world and the biblical society world, and what is considered scholarship in the Messianic Hebrew roots world. So I gave this analogy to, well, maybe we should read some of this first, and then I'll give my analogy.
Okay.
Let's start with the Cepher Publishing Group. The Cepher Publishing Group. Now, where did we frequently asked questions? Was that where we got it? Man, I don't even know where to start with these guys.
I know one thing I noticed on this Bible. Now, this is peripheral to their goal, but they call Yeshua Yahusha. Yahusha. And then they say, well, how can we be sure that Yahusha is correct and not Yahushua, Yeshua, Yahshua, Yahoshua, etc.? And they go on to say, it's horrific.
Okay, so basically...
It's absolutely horrific. That this person has no understanding of Hebrew at all.
Okay, hang on just a sec, though. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, so basically this is done by a guy here in Washington State in Bellevue. He's a lawyer. He has not been trained. I would say it's somewhat obvious he hasn't been trained. His name's Stephen Pigeon. He hasn't been trained in things Bible. He has been trained, and I think that's one of the disconnects, is that people think that just because they believe that, and we've said this before, just because they believe that God must give them some kind of insight that He hasn't given to anyone else, or that they don't need any training. The interesting thing is that you when you're dealing with scholarship and the Bible, to really be able to honestly handle the text, one of the things that you need to be able to do is read the text in its original languages. If you're doing work if you're doing that kind of work, and these people are obviously trying to do this kind of work, and so I would maybe ask, if I were able to talk to Mr. Pigeon face to face, I might ask him, if somebody came into the courtroom and said that they were going to represent themselves, and he said, maybe I don't think that's a good idea. It takes a lot of training to do this work. If they said, yeah, well, I've watched some movies and, I've asked some questions of some lawyers and I think I got it, would that be would that person be qualified? And I think the answer would obviously be no, they wouldn't be qualified. And so I wonder why he thinks that, a field as vast as biblical studies and theology would be any different. Anyway, so here's their story. This is the story of the Cepher Publication Group. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm just going to give you the very first paragraph, and then we're going to go to how they translated this book. The Cepher Publication Group is an assembly of believers who have come together to bring the unabridged Word of the Heavenly Father to the world in printed form. In the late 1990s, Stephen Pigeon, the group's founder, discovered that many books and other texts were missing from the Bible. For instance, yeah, right? Should I? Okay. So, the Bible, for instance, the Bible references the book of Jasher by name, and as well as I think is what they are supposed to have there, several other books which have been renamed, such as the book of Iddo and the book of Nathan. In addition, the Septuagint provided an entire series of books that have formerly been included in the Bible but aren't anymore. Okay, so they go on to talk about how Mr. Pigeon first put the Book of Enoch and Jubilees into his personal Bible, and then other people started looking at it, and then they made this discovery that, and this is where they get into the Aleph Tav, and it seems as though that they're actually sacred namers as well, because they have decided not to put any substitutions whatsoever into their translation. And I almost want to go to a sample page to give an example. Now, this, I think, in general shows kind of what we're talking about in terms of understanding of language here. So this is their translation of Revelation 1:8. I am the Aleph and the Tav. That's Et, the beginning and the ending, says Yahuwah Elohim, which is and which was and which is to come. So, and then they put Yahuwah Zevaot. Now they have an interesting translation of Yeshua's name. They also have, so basically anytime that there's a name of God, here's maybe a better, let me give you one more example. This is out of Deuteronomy 11:26 through 28. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse, et a blessing, if ye obey the commandments of Yahuwah Elohim, which I command you this day. So they're actually, when the word has a suffix on it, a personal ending suffix, they actually are translating those into the text. Okay, so when I look at this, I think that these guys are just playing on a whole different ball game. They're not okay.
For example, one of the things just to show, they say that Shah, the prefix Shah means salvation. Hence, the Hebrew word Shamayim, which is the word for heaven, means the waters of salvation.
That's an interesting jump.
So, and this is on their page, on their website here. There's a lot of things that are just, he quotes, Strong's numbers. He does type some things in Hebrew that he'll type in Hebrew, but sometimes it's backwards. It's like, I don't know if it got flipped, but this person would not be able to open up a Hebrew Torah scroll and read, interpret.
Now, hang on, Rob. In their defense, I'm going to come to their defense here just a little bit. In their defense, they're not claiming to have translated this work. Okay.
No, I know that.
It says, here's under their frequently asked questions. And the reason
but they're critical of translations.
Yes, they are.
It says.
Yeah,
that's the problem. So it's like, I'm not a translator, but I'm criticizing the work of other translators.
I'm not a translator, but you translated this wrong.
Yeah, and so that's that's what they're doing, and that's really arrogant, is what it is. And it comes across as very kind and very humble, but really there's an arrogance that's being masked with the kindness.
And that's kind of what we see in the Messianic realm. In some cases, not all. There are some good scholars in the Messianic realm, and even scholars that I strongly disagree with. At least they've gone through some hard work of training, right? There are some guys at the ETS SPL, we disagree with them strongly, but they're at least trying to be in that sphere, right? And it seems like these guys, they haven't done the work. They're not willing to be critiqued by the biblical scholarship community at all. And then they're critical of those within the scholarship community. So this is how they translate their book or their Bible, their translation. It says, "Is the Cepher a direct translation?" First, we start with. I'm sorry. First, we start with the premise of our election to publish the text without redaction. We have received many offers to eliminate this passage or that passage. One commentator has demanded we subtract every mention of Christ. Blah, blah. Many claim that the New Testament. Oh wait, this is not what I wanted. I'm sorry. This is the one. Most of our work was transliteration rather than translation. The translations were accomplished through Strong's Concordance with cross-references to other translation software programs. So they're using software to do this. To the extent that translation was used. We relied on existing English translations which were in public domain. The Tyndale, the 1611 KJV, the Stephanus Textus Receptus, and the Masoretic Hebrew. I don't know what they're saying in terms of what translation they're using in terms of the Masoretic Hebrew. Does that mean that they're using the Stone Edition Tanakh?
I don't know.
Anyway, okay, as a foundational text. New translations were had only in a few locations. The Song of Solomon and Zechariah 5 are the two major departures, and they were derived from the Masoretic text. The conclusion concerning Matthew 1 was done in accord with Peshitta. So they're looking at Aramaic. Well, they're not. I'm guessing that they're taking from what? Andre Gabriel-Roth? And the conclusion in Matthew 23 was first reached by Nehemiah Gordon in reliance on the Shem Tov Gospel of Matthew. So this kind of shows the frustration that I think I have with some of the things that go on in the Messianic realm. And
here, can I share a little bit that I found? This is under how did you choose which books to include. It says the Mishnahs are another set of books that were excluded, as was the Zohar. Although there are reasons other than the size and volume of the work in question, the scope of these multi-volume sets render their inclusion a physical impossibility. So the reason they give why the Mishnah and the Mishnahs and the Zohar was excluded from this Cepher Bible is even though there's other reasons, it would have been impossible because it's huge.
It's too big.
Yeah. And same thing with Josephus. It's primarily historical character, but the sheer volume of the work.
So what they're doing is they're putting in all sorts of different books that really shouldn't be in our canon. First of all,
yeah, and I guess this is a good case study, because if the person had taken even an introduction to Second Temple Judaism or something like that, they would have been oriented to all the translations, all the texts, all the language, the history, who are the main scholars in the fields of these things, and would have had a proper and healthy orientation to the study. Instead, this is a person, it sounds like someone who goes to Barnes & Noble and reads the popular,
But this is a good question. This is a good question, Rob, and this is really the heart of the issue. Do you think that this is malicious? They're not, in my mind, they're not doing this maliciously.
I think it's arrogance that is unchecked arrogance, but and coming across as kind and humble.
So they're not. You don't think that? I mean, they didn't make this just to. You think the intention's good, right? I do. I think the intention's good. I think.
I don't know that I would say intention. I think that it is. It's a sign or a symptom of sickness in the body. That's what I think.
I totally agree with that.
I just mean in terms of it's a sign of where we are, in terms of the body of Messiah and the low literacy rate. It's just this is a sign of someone who has very low literacy when it comes to biblical things. But the thing is, though, if you read their website, they sound like, to someone who's less literate, this person sounds very literate. They're using the Hebrew words like Mishlei, Yov, Shir HaShirim. They're using all the scribal vocalizations for the names, but when it comes to for the names of the books of the Bible, but when it comes to Joshua, they say Yashu or Yahusha. They don't. In that instance, they use their own scheme rather than the scribal, the vowel pointing. But everywhere else, it looks like they're using the vowel pointing of the scribes. So there's again, this is not just weights and measures, but I think that they're ignorant of it. I think it's
what'd you say? They're not what?
They're ignorant.
No. Before that,
of their own arrogance.
They're not using what?
Just weights and measures. But they don't know. They don't even know that that's what they're doing, and that's what's sad about it. Boy,
I'm not positive, but I think Rob Roy just walked into the chat room. Welcome. I feel like big time now. We've made it. Rob, we have made it. The owner of Messianic Publications walks into the chat room.
From one Rob to another.
Okay, so we're not just picking on these guys. One of the reasons I want to bring this up is because, and maybe a little history here on the movement of the Messianic movement, so-called, would be appropriate. And we've done this before. We'll talk about it very briefly again. So the Messianic movement essentially grew out of the charismatic movement. Okay, the charismatic movement, not across the board, but a large percentage of the charismatic movement has kind of pushed against and shunned the idea of education, essentially formal education. Now, granted, there are exceptions to this rule, right? We have people like Dr. Michael Brown, who is in the charismatic movement. I disagree with him on many things, but I consider him a strong brother in the Lord. And not only that, but he's a dynamite scholar when it comes to languages. And that's one reason that I really appreciate Dr. Brown, is because he is a good scholar when it comes to languages. And he's got his doctorate in Near Eastern languages. He's done the hard work. But as a majority within the charismatic movement, they have shunned the idea of formal education. Beyond this, once we get into the Messianic movement, when you have people coming out of the church going into things Torah, things Messianic, all that kind of stuff, you have this sense that you've been lied to by the church. So I think the idea kind of comes into them, and this is speculation, but I think one of the ideas that comes along with this newfound belief is that, these guys who were trained in the seminaries and trained in school, they've been lying to me the whole time, so I can't trust them. I can't trust the schools, that kind of thing. This is, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in my opinion. Okay, so if you see the Cepher Bible, I would just caution you, this is not a translation. And it's interesting to me that they say we realize that there were major errors in the KJV. How would you even know that? What are you comparing it to?
Right.
You're comparing it to what? The Tyndale Bible and the Stephanus Textus Receptus and the Masoretic Hebrew? English text? Certainly there are discrepancies from translation to translation, but the reason there are discrepancies from translation to translation is because the people who have done the hard work and know the languages are seeing the nuances between the language, right? They're having to make the decisions. And there's reasons why they've made one decision or the other. Okay. That being said, Marty. Oh,
wait, I have one more I want to share here.
Go for it.
From the Cepher website, if I may.
Go for it.
Is this idea of when they talk about the Aleph Tav and the significance, one of the things is he gets into Kabbalah. He says that the Aleph is a yod above and a yod below with a vav in between, right? And he says, he talks about the Aleph being the Ein Sof, the infinite, who occupies infinite dimensions infinitely. So this reminds me kind of Andre Gabriel-Roth's thought pattern in bringing later Kabbalistic teachings and then trying to smuggle them back into the Bible. And so that's just another red flag.
Yeah. So we've talked about Marty Hertz on this program before. In fact, we did an entire show based around his emails to us. Marty Hertz believes that he runs a Facebook page and I think a website too that basically says that the temple was not, the first and second temple was not on the Temple Mount. That it was actually off by about, not just off from the spot where they think it was on the Temple Mount, it was off the entire Temple Mount by a quarter of a mile or something. And that it was in between this, basically it was in the city of David next to where the Temple Mount is now. There's a picture on in your show notes. Did I put it on Facebook? Let me see here. Hang on just a second, folks. Let me try to get to Facebook. I'm going to post this picture so people can see. on our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/The Rob and Caleb Show. Oh, no, it's not The Rob and Caleb Show. It's just Rob and Caleb Show. And give me just a second. Do we have... Man, I don't even know where my elevator music is.
I can do that.
I'm dropping... I'm dropping the ball today, man. I'm dropping the ball. Okay, so let's just upload a photo. There it is. And publish. I think it's because I didn't save the, I didn't save that last time. Okay, so there it is. There's the picture. It's up on our Facebook page. Go see what it says. Anyway, okay, so the red mark, and I should describe this picture a little bit. You have the Temple Mount, and then over where the red is kind of where they say that the Temple Mount was. It's part of it. Okay, so Marty Hertz. Now, he gets on our Facebook page every once in a while, and he posts this stuff. And for some reason, I think that he thinks he's either going to convince us that the Temple Mount is not the real location of the temple, or that he's bringing solid evidence. Now, I don't know if I should ruin this, or no, I think we should just play this. Okay, so let's listen to... Now, this is the video he posted. This video is by Andre Gabriel-Roth. And you all know who Andre Gabriel-Roth is. He translated, I'm going to put that in quote marks, he translated the Aramaic English New Testament, and so on and so forth. All right, here we go. Here's Andre Gabriel-Roth. Now, he's talking about, I suppose we should set this up a little bit. The Hezekiah's seal was found recently.
Well, it's like summer of 2009.
Yeah, summer of 2009, exactly. And so they found a bunch of different stuff. They found a ton of different things. And now they're just now starting to publish what they have found. So on December 2nd of this year, just a week ago or whatever, 2 weeks ago, they released some of their findings. One of the things that they released was this Hezekiah's seal. And what this is, it was a seal that would go around documents. Okay, so let's say, Rob Van Hoff is the king of Washington, and he says, I need to get a message to Caleb, but my internet's down. So what does he do? He writes a letter, okay, and he has this little almost like a button, okay, and he puts a string around the document that he's going to send me, and then to seal it up, he puts this button on and he wraps the string around the button. So now everyone knows that this button that has the seal of Rob Van Hoff on it, it's from Rob, and it's officially from Rob because it has the seal. He gives it to a courier or whatever. That courier brings it to me. I see it. I say, oh, it's important because it's from Rob Van Hoff, and I can see that by the seal. Okay? It's kind of like the return address that you put on a letter. Ancient return address. So this is what Andre Gabriel-Roth is talking about. Now, keep in mind, Marty Hertz put this on the Robin, and it's still there. Okay, so you can watch this whole video if you want to.
Yeah, we didn't hunt this out.
We did not hunt this out. This was put on to try to prove to us that the Temple Mount is somewhere else. Listen to Andre Gabriel-Roth.
Hezekiah's seal was found in an amazing place, in the exact right place. Previous seals with Hezekiah's name on it were not found what they call in situ, which is in their original place on the ground. They kind of made their way in the 1990s into the black market trade, and that means that you don't have pictures of its provenance where it was originally found, but here we do. So let me just show you this. This is the area of where Hezekiah's seal was found, this area right here. And you'll notice that this is the Dome of the Rock. Of traditional Jewish people believe that the temple is below here.
Okay, hang on just a sec. I just want to say he's referencing the picture that is now on Facebook. So
yeah. And just so it was found in 2009. So he's got that it was found. No, it's just he's referring to an article that was published on December 2nd. The actual seal was found 2009.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let's keep going.
But we're part of a growing number of scholars that believe the temple is not here at all. It's a third of a mile southwest in the exact area where this seal was.
Okay, hang on just a second. Now, this clip is still not done. He says that we are part of a growing number of scholars who believe that this is not the location of the Temple Mount. Okay, first of all, what are you talking about? Andrew Gabriel-Roth has not had formal training in anything biblical.
Well, we understand scholarship to be different things. When he talks about scholar, he has a certain thing in mind, similar to like the Cepher guy would consider himself a scholar. Andrew Gabriel-Roth's going to consider himself a scholar.
Okay, but
it's just a different word.
Here's my point. If you go to the SBL, and we're going to use the SBL as basically the measuring stick because the SBL is where you have the majority of Bible scholars in the world converging at one time. If you go to the SBL, I have not heard one person present a paper, present the idea that the temple is located where Andrew Gabriel-Roth is saying.
And here's the thing, to show the dependency, the reason Andrew Gabriel-Roth has the information he has, the reason that Cepher guy has the books in English that he has is because of scholars.
At the SBL.
At the SBL. Or in an archaeological society like Dr. Mazar. She is a top Israeli, she's like third generation Israeli archaeologist. That means her mom or dad was one, and then her grandparent was an Israeli archaeologist. So we're talking deep roots. It's because of her work. She's the scholar, and she's the archaeologist who does the grueling day-to-day work to come up with the find. I think what Andrew Gabriel-Roth is doing in this case, he's taking a little bit of information from the hard work of Dr. Mazar and running to make it mean something in a completely different context that Mazar would go, no.
But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, though, Rob, is that if Andrew Gabriel-Roth truly thinks that he and other scholars are coming up with these great ideas and that they are making headway in these finds, then why wouldn't they take them to places like the SBL?
It's just the same reason why. It's the Patterns of Evidence movie. Remember you met the guy. He had no idea what the SBL was, and he's already produced a movie interviewing. So he was like, "Oh, I didn't even know this existed." Well, that's the problem. We have a disconnect. We have people who are out in the marketplace able to buy books. We have the dumpster diving of the internet. People go and search and find and put together their own little puzzle pieces without reference to a larger, actual published knowledge.
In my opinion,
so that's the gap.
In my opinion, if you're going to make new theological breakthroughs and try to put forth new archaeological ideas and those kind of things, you have to take them before, you have to be able to defend them and present them even to the world of scholarship that dabbles in this.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We can post this other video that is on a website that actually interviews Dr. Mazar, and she takes you to the site and she shows you the site. It's building from the time of Solomon. It's like a royal house. There's all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I got a clip of her.
There was a garbage pit, and that's where they found it in this garbage heap. And this building that they've unearthed is from the time of Solomon. It's not a temple. There's no temple there.
Well, hang on just a sec, because I actually think that you might have misunderstood her. She says that royal. Okay, well, we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Anyway, let's listen to the end of this clip. But the point is that I don't think that there's any growing number of scholars who are now believing that the temple's in a different place. I've never heard that from any scholar.
Well, that's why it sells. That's why it sizzles, because it's like I discovered that there were books missing from the Bible.
Okay, so
that's what the other guy was saying.
In this book in this video, Andrew Gabriel-Roth is basically saying that they found this seal of Hezekiah. Okay, and Marty Hertz, when he posted this video to our Facebook page, what is his caption? His caption is, this is great, by the way. Thank you, Marty, for posting this. While you were away, must see Hezekiah's seal. Find points the real location of the temples. So the question is why does Marty and why does Andrew believe that this has anything to do with the location of the temple? Let's listen. There's only 23 seconds left of this clip, and then I got another one from Roth.
Found. So that's what I'm saying here. It's found southwest of that mosque. There's another arrow pointing to it here.
Referencing
and
the
that
picture.
is exactly where we would expect an original seal of a Judahite king to be found. We'll get a little bit more into some detail with that.
Okay, so he's going to go more into
Here's
he's going to go more into detail in that. But the question the instantaneous question that I had is why? Why would we expect a seal from a king to be found, first of all, at the Temple Mount?
It's a centimeter long. It could be moved. It could.
But
who knows?
Okay, but the point is more broad than that. The king wasn't sitting in the temple writing his documents down and sending them out all over the place. It's not like he had his secretary doing work up in the Holy of Holies. Why and not only that, but the king was not the only one who used the king's seal. It's like, do you think that when you send in a letter to President Obama, you say, hey, can I get your autograph? He sends you back a letter, right, with the autograph. You think that he actually wrote that? No. He has a secretary working in the White House who prints them all out. They're not even done with ink, with a pen. So the same thing is happening with this. Hezekiah has these seals. He's got people sending stuff out all over all the time. Why in the world would we think that Hezekiah was up on the Temple Mount throwing his seals around?
But Caleb,
okay, well,
we've been duped. We've been deceived by the institutions and the people who built the mosque, and we call that the Temple Mount, and the whole world thinks falsely that that's where the temple goes.
Okay,
and what we need to show people is that there is a growing body of scholars who believe.
Yeah.
And now
show me that growing body of scholars.
This seal demonstrates that we found a 1 centimeter seal in a refuse heap at the Ophel site.
That's a great question. Hey, the Nichols say, would there have been a garbage heap in the temple complex? No, there would not have been a garbage heap in the temple complex. Let's go back to Roth to ask why. Now he's going to explain to us why this seal would be would point to the location of the temple. Here we go.
And with King Hezekiah, it's particularly interesting because according to 2 Kings 18 and 19, King Hezekiah, when the Assyrian army invaded, led by Sennacherib, he basically took this surrender letter that Sennacherib had given him, and he went into the Holy of Holies, okay, where he spread it out probably on the shewbread table, facing the Ark of the Covenant, to pray to Father Yah. And we would expect that a king who had actually gone into that innermost area of the temple and seemed to have spent a good deal of time in and around that area, we should not be surprised that some of his official correspondence, if not the correspondence itself, but one of the seals that went with them, would be, in fact, found very close to where the Holy of Holies was. Okay? And so this is a bullseye. This is a bullseye that tells us that Hezekiah was in that part of the temple, and therefore that the temple is in that location, which matches the references in Psalms and other parts of the Old Testament.
This is a bullseye, Rob. It's a bullseye because Hezekiah went into the temple with a letter. So now it must be that seal, right? We found
I think this
that
is
seal.
the actual seal.
Yeah, it's the actual seal that Hezekiah took into the Holy of Holies. That's how we know. And it's not that Hezekiah had hundreds or thousands of these that he was setting out all over the place. Oh no. There's only one. There's only one seal.
Well, wait a minute. By that reasoning, what if we found the seal in Bethlehem? Would we say Bethlehem was the temple?
Exactly.
What if we find one out, in the desert somewhere? Is that where the temple was?
The funny part is that Marty Hertz,
foolishness.
Marty
This
Hertz,
is absolute foolishness.
Marty Hertz posted this on our Facebook page as if this was going to convince us. Like, oh my word, they found a seal. That must be where the temple is. Are you really? Come on. Let's listen to the real archaeologist, the real scholar who actually found the seal, and why it was in the place it was found. Here we go.
I'm walking into the royal building that we revealed back in 1986 and prepared for the public after our excavations in 2009. You can see that this building is beautifully preserved. It was built at the time of King Solomon and used until the end of the First Temple period, meaning destroyed by the Babylonians at 586 BCE. We found a destruction layer. And all these jars that you can see here, including...
Okay, hang on just a sec. So there's your timeline for this building. You have a royal building built in the time of Solomon. It was used all the way up until 586. That's the first temple period. That's during the time of Hezekiah, which means that the temple wasn't there. Why?
That's my point. And see, how come we have these guys who call themselves scholars, but they don't actually hear out
the scholars,
the third or fourth generation Israeli archaeologist who explains the whole situation. You know, one of the words he says in situ. He uses this phrase meaning on site. That they found it on site. In other words, it wasn't sold on the black market. It was actually under proper archaeological protocol. It was found, photographed, and properly handled under the direction of this top-notch archaeologist. But he's not going to hear her out. What he's going to do, he's going to take this little bit of information, he's going to run with it. He's going to say, okay, I'm done. I don't need to hear you talk anymore. I'm going to go because I have to make a YouTube video to explain to the world why we have a bullseye.
Why I'm right and why you're wrong.
Yeah, and it's just like this is the core issue. The core issue for our discipleship in Yeshua is learning how to listen. Be quick to hear, slow to speak. And what has happened here, this is an example, and I know this because I know in my marriage, I grow up times where I'll take a little bit of information, maybe my wife will say something,
and
then
I
create a new picture, right? I run with it and make a picture that's actually inaccurate. And then it's only later, it's like, oh, that's what you meant. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is basic communication skills that apparently Roth, and I would say the guy with the Cepher Bible, they take a little bit and they run with it and they don't hear the whole story. And that is a key problem with our hearts individually. Are we good listeners? I like how Gary Springer was sharing when we were in Atlanta. The first commandment is Shema. Is listen. And so God's people are a body of good listeners. And I think that we all need to check our own hearts and how good of a listener are we to other people? Are we taking things and running? Or we take a little bit of this and this and then we run and connect the dots? Or do we hear the whole story? And this is an example, sadly, now out on the internet, fooling how many people, deceiving how many people. I'm not saying that's Roth's intention to deceive, but he's not a good listener this situation.
That's a good question, because here's the thing, is that Roth has claimed that over 1,000 scholars have approved of the Aramaic English New Testament.
Oh, yeah. We asked him for even a couple and weren't given any.
Well, and not only that, but I have never seen him present anything on his translation at the SBL. I've asked multiple scholars in the Aramaic studies section if they've even heard of the Aramaic New Testament. Aramaic English New Testament by Andre Gabriel-Roth. No, they haven't. So I'm wondering these are the leading Aramaic scholars in the world, and I'm wondering what scholars he's had approve this. No names have ever been presented. So let's keep going. So now we know that there's a royal building, where Marty and Andrew both say that the temple was. Why a royal building would be standing in the middle of the temple, according to them, is beyond me. Okay? And a trash heap next to it. Listen to where they actually found this and how they found this seal of Hezekiah.
See here, including an ancient Hebrew inscription on one of the jars, which indicate that they were used by the official who is in charge of the bakery at the royal house. From this building, all the bullae and garbage they were thrown from the windows of the second floor. And all this garbage, we found it as it was dumped to the other side of the building. That's where we found many bullae, among which are our bullae.
Okay, so they found, basically, she says exactly what's going on. They had the second story room. They had the royal baker in this complex, and somebody's throwing trash out the second window. Probably.
It's what's amazing here, because where they're looking, if up on the Temple Mount, there are stones that are so huge, that are so immense that they've, and they're saying, that's not the temple, that's not where thousands of people would go, and worship. Rather, it's over here where we don't even. It's just. Well,
I guess
it's crazy.
I guess the point is that if you're going to look, I'm happy for people to bring us different things and ask us to talk about them and videos and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy for people to disagree and try to make us think when it comes to videos and stuff like that. But if you're going to post something on our Facebook page, I would expect that it's going to have some substance. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't take. It's just mind blowing to me that someone would think, oh, look, we found the seal of Hezekiah. This must be where the Temple Mount is. You have to connect so many false dots. I mean, so many false dots.
That's what I mean, like taking it and running. You take a little bit and you run with it.
Okay, and so now what I want to do is finally, I want to go back to 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we talked about this article, His Kingdom Prophecy. And it's actually, I'm sorry, that's the blog name. The name of the ministry is International Christian Zionist Center. And the name of the article itself is As Gentile Believers, How Should We Then Live? And we did a very small exegesis of Acts 15, okay? And so now I come back to this, and this is not a Messianic group. This is what I would consider a Christian group. They might dabble in Messianic Judaism, but it sure seems as though they lean way more Christian than they do anything else. And I'm sure what the point that is going to be made by many of the people who disagree with us is going to be, well, if these scholars that you rest so heavily on are so right, blah, 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 then why are they rejecting Torah? And I think that this not only is prophesied, it's prophesied that the Gentiles are going to reject the certain parts of the Torah because we see them returning. The prophecies are very clear that the Gentiles in the end times will come to the Torah. They'll wait expectantly for the Torah. The Torah will go out to them, and the Gentiles will start keeping festivals and Sabbaths and all sorts of other things. Okay, I think this is very clear within the prophetic literature. And this is one reason that you have such a diverse amount of different beliefs. The whole reason that you have the dispensationalists is because they're trying desperately to work with the scriptures, to not allegorize the scriptures that talk about the Gentiles and the nations keeping Torah and keeping the festivals and all these things. At least the dispensationalists are looking at the text and saying we can't allegorize this entire the entire Bible. We have to deal with the text itself. And so what have they done? They've come up with this theology that essentially tries to work with the text. Now, it's wrong. I certainly believe that dispensationalism is wrong, but at the same time, at least they're trying to deal with the text in some way, shape, and form. This being said, one of the reasons that I think it's not only God that is keeping that has kept the church in the dark on certain things of the Torah for quite some time, but I also think that it's because the tradition is perpetuated. We shouldn't use the word brainwashing, but maybe conditioning. We're conditioned to think a certain way from a young age, correct? And the schools that we go to and whatnot, they've been taught this way, and so they perpetuate these kind of things. Now, granted, there are some really good scholars doing work right now. Adam Smith and his family, Adam's in the chat room right now, Adam and his family came over to our house and stayed with us for several days during Hanukkah. They live in Montana. We're in Washington State, so it was really a blessing to have them with us. For Hanukkah, I gave him a gift of a couple of books that he was interested in, and they were by Daniel Block. Now, I saw Daniel Block present at the ETS this year. I actually saw him present twice. Daniel Block is a Christian evangelical scholar and doctor. He has his doctorate, and he is the two books that I got for Adam were "Oh, How I Love Your Torah," and then another one, the Gospel According to Moses. And it seems, and we're trying to figure out how it is that Dr. Block is not wearing tzitzit at this point, or whether or not he's attending a Messianic congregation. He basically says, right in the opening pages of his book, How I Love Your Torah, that Paul does not disagree with Moses, and Moses does not disagree with Paul, and that certainly Moses seems to say that the Torah is good and wonderful, and that it's a blessing to believers. And so Paul could not be disparaging of the Torah. So then he looks and he tries to say, okay, well then Paul must be saying something else. And what does he do? He says that in the very beginning pages of this book, he says that the Torah is the way that God sanctifies his elect. So we have good Bible-believing evangelical scholars who are now coming to a deeper understanding of the Torah and what it means for believers. Even Dr. Walter Kaiser, who is a dynamite scholar, now granted, he believes in built-in obsolescence. This is a problem. However, he's having to deal with the Torah itself and the implications of the Torah for a believer. Now, even though he believes in built-in obsolescence, and I don't think he's fully nailed down what he believes about built-in obsolescence, because I've talked to him in length. Anyway, so this getting back to this article, as Gentile believers, how should we then live? This gentleman basically has put out a perfect exposition of Christian theology, using all of the heavy-hitting scriptures, heavy-hitting, I should say, that's the quote marks, heavy-hitting scriptures against one Torah theology, or that the Torah is the way of sanctification for all believers. I wanted to go through some of this, but I don't think we really have time to get deep into any of these verses. But it just shows, even this right here, this is not scholarship itself, and this goes back to, we talked about one of the scholars at the SBL. One of the first papers we saw, Rob was just fuming mad because this scholar didn't seem to have done any work, right? And talk about that for a few seconds, Rob.
Well, we went to a session, and I kind of feel bad because I hooked the whole Torah resource team. I'm like, hey guys, come with me. Let's check this out. They're talking about the food laws in the New Testament, or Jesus in the food laws or something. I'm like, come on, it's got to be good, and I didn't recognize any of the names of the scholars, so we all schlepped our stuff over there and sat down. And the one professor I think he was from Europe, basically he was just saying, Jesus came and abolished the food law, the diet laws.
He ate a pork sandwich after he rose from the grave.
And, well, he didn't literally say that, but
that was the tone. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, we were just like going, is this SBL? Are we at SBL?
Well, the point is, I think the point about that lecture was that he was not coming up with any new ideas himself. He just basically said, yeah, we just, we assume that this is the case. You can't say we assume at the SBL.
And then Tim Haig asked a question about Mark 7:19 at the end. This word katarizon, whether it was the text issue, whether it's spelled with an omicron nu at the end or an omega nu, and which anybody who's going to be delivering a paper on Mark 7 and actually have a handout that has Mark 7 in it, that they would have encountered this textual issue because it's a crux issue. Well, Tim asked him that question. He's like, I don't know.
Deer in headlights.
Yeah, he didn't even know that there was this. So I was very disappointed with that. But it was also encouraging. As strange as that sounds, it's encouraging. It means that the SBL is a place to come, and even someone who hasn't probably, they're given a paper on something they haven't researched for a long time, they have an opportunity. But that person is given an opportunity. He might not ever be able to give another paper at a Jesus and the Food Laws session. I don't know, but at least he had an opportunity. He came and he got the interaction. And my hope is that he went home and he looked up Mark 7:19 and he looked up the text issues, and he's going, you know what? That guy had a really good point, and I was blindsided. That is a good thing. So I'm not just to beat up on the guy, but just say, look, he came, he had an opportunity, he got feedback, and now his job, if he's a Christian, if he's a believer in Yeshua, he will now have to go and take that correction, and that'll shape his next phase of his growth in Messiah. But on the other hand, if he just, well, I'm going to give a paper and I'm going to leave and I'm not going to listen because I'm right, well, that person's going to be stuck no matter where they are.
But there's more to that story than just seeing a bad paper at the SBL. And the extra part of this story is actually proves our point about a level of scholarship at the SBL. The next day, my dad and I were sitting down in the cafe having breakfast and having a cup of coffee, and who walks by? This gentleman. And my dad stops him and says, okay, let's talk about this variant in Mark 7, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I didn't know this.
And so the guy sits and says, yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, I should have looked into this textbook. I should have looked into this, and so basically, first of all, he's saying, yeah, I was unprepared and I should have been more prepared. That's number one. Number two, he is aware of specific textbooks. And his Greek is good enough that he's able to dialogue about these things intelligently, even if he made assumptions that he shouldn't have made. And when we bring up the point that he's just accepting Christian doctrine and not actually dealing with the text, he agrees and says, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so all of these things are to say that there is a level of scholarship there that I'll give my analogy now. Going to the SBL, you got all these juggernaut scholars who are like, let's play a game of football. These guys are like the NFL. They've trained their whole life. They've gone, they've worked, they hone their skills. They get out there, they are the best of the best. They get out on the field, and it's like the best NFL team you've ever seen in your life. Okay, and then you got guys like these guys from the Cepher Bible, like Andre Gabriel-Roth, and these guys, and they say, yeah, we're going to play this game of football. They get there, not only have they never played football before, they've watched a couple of games on TV maybe, they know a couple of the rules, but never played football before. They actually think that when the other team says football, they mean tennis. So they're showing up with their little shorts and their rackets and their headbands, and they're getting ready to bat this ball around, the court. They're playing a totally different game. And that's the point. You have scholarship that's playing this one game, and these guys are over here. They're not even playing this. They're not playing by the same rules, and they're not even playing the same game. And that's what's sad, is because in the Messianic movement, we have such a light into the Scriptures in terms of seeing the Scriptures as a whole. We're taking the Scriptures as a whole, we're using them as a whole, we're seeing a difference between justification and sanctification, which I think is lost many times within the church. Okay, we're seeing these different nuances between what's referred to as the Old and New Testaments, right? We're seeing it all gel together. And the opportunity for us to make breakthrough scholarship in the Christian and scholarly world is there. But instead, these guys are throwing it all away. They're saying they're not playing by the same rules. That's sad. All right. That's what I got. What are you laughing at?
Smith. I just made my joke about the NFL being the Hebrew Nun Pei Lamed,
The Nephilim.
Nephilim, and the Giants, New York Giants.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good point, Caleb. You know, and that's it's culture. There's an aspect. So I don't know if education's the right word anymore for us to use. It's not that that Cepher guy or Roth or these guys are uneducated. I know we've used that, but I think we need to refine our vocabulary, because it has to do with, have they received proper training? Are they disciplined? Do they have what is biblical wisdom? Which biblical wisdom, it says, who is the wise person? One who hears and increases their understanding. They're always listening. They accept correction. That's what biblical wisdom is. If you just read the Proverbs, or shameless plug, listen to Gary Springer and Rob Van Hoff.
Yes.
Michelet, a conversational commentary on the book of Proverbs.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I'm seeing is what I see in terms of biblical foolishness. And I think Gary Springer would back me up on this with the Et Cepher or with the Andre Gabriel-Roth's claims here. They are fitting the bill of what the Proverbs say is a fool. And it's not a personal attack. It's not an attack on them as a person or their heart. It's saying the behaviors and the products of their behavior.
So you're not. Hang on. I want to make sure you're not calling them fools. You're saying that they are using foolish.
No, I'm saying that their works are the works of fools. The website with the Et Cepher, the Aramaic New Testament that Roth produced, and now that is the fruit of foolishness. It's the fruit of fools. And that might be upsetting for them to hear that, but that's the Bible says that you'd be quick to hear and slow to speak. You'll receive training. You'll receive instruction. You'll receive correction. And I'm not seeing evidence of that in among those quote scholars. I'm using the danger quotes.
But you know what? We can take a little bit of hope and joy in the fact that we do have a generation that's coming up now. I might not disagree with everything some of these guys are necessarily believe, but you have great believing, God-fearing men like Joshua Ensley, like Gage Diffie, and like Ryan Blackwelder. These guys are going to seminary. They're doing the really hard work. They're learning the languages. Gage is in his 4th year of Greek right now. Joshua Ensley, he went through years of Greek, and Ryan Blackwelder, he's up at Trinity. He's basically becoming a linguist. He's taken Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic. He's all over the place. You have Dr. Benjamin Noonan. I think of him as a young guy because I think he's the same age as me. But him and his wife both have their doctorates, essentially in Near Eastern languages. Dr. Noonan he's a good scholar. Now, certainly, I would disagree with Dr. Noonan on some of his theology, but I appreciate his work, and I think that he's a God-fearing, Bible-believing man, and his family is in the Messianic realm. So we can take courage that there are these men coming up, and there are also women. Christy Anderson was at the ETS and SBL with us. She's being trained in biblical topics and theology. So we can take courage in the fact that there are people who are doing the hard work of and putting their nose to the grindstone, and really learning the languages and learning things about theology and the Bible. Okay, anything else before we sign out here, Rob?
Nope.
All right, fine. Make it easy like that.
Make it easy.
All right. Well, hey, we've had fun. Send us all your ideas for show topics and everything. Chag at TorahResource.com or Vanhoff at TorahResource.com. You can also put things on our Facebook page if you want us to talk about them, or you can comment on our YouTube page. Okay. We hope that you had a great Hanukkah and that you were blessed by it, and that the light of the Messiah was the true light that shined for you and your family during that time. And join us next week in the chat room. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I got. So until next time, we hope that this conversation glorified our great God and Savior, Yeshua, the Messiah.